My promise to you. My promise to you is this. If you will follow the guidelines of this proven system of sacrifice and discipline, you will be debt free. Begin saving and give as you would never, and give as you have never given before. You will build wealth. I will also promise you that it is totally up to you. The total money makeover isn't a magic formula to wealth. The system will not work unless you do, and then only to the degree of your intensity in implementing it. In the following pages, you will meet many individuals and families who have won many money victories, but not one of them won until they won the battle with the guy in the mirror. Your situation isn't your spouse's fault. Well, maybe, but we will talk later. It isn't your parents' fault. It isn't your children's fault, and it isn't your friend's fault. It is your fault. Dave Rance. Savings without a mission is garbage. Your money needs to work for you, not to lie around. My financial life began turning around when I took responsibility for it. People all across America have used these steps to become free, regain a sense of confidence and control, and build a future for their families. Please join me on a journey away from the young man I was, the one I described earlier who was racked with worry, fear, and guilt over money. Take this journey with me to your own total money makeover. But remember, the first part of the quest is confronting the man in the mirror. That man in the mirror is your total money makeover challenge. Through denial, I am not that out of shape. Several years ago, I realized I had let my body dissolve into flab. I had worked so hard for so many years that I had abandoned the care of my physical condition. The first step to getting into shape was to realize I needed to change my ways. But the second and equally important step was to identify the obstacles to getting there. What would stop me from getting into shape? Once I understood those obstacles, I began a process to lose weight, grow muscle, and become more fit. Your total money makeover is the same. You need to realize there's a problem, but you must also see what could hinder your move toward financial fitness. The next few chapters will identify some major obstacles to your total money makeover. Myths versus truth. Myth: debt consolidation saves interest and you have one smaller payment. Truth: debt consolidation is dangerous because you treat only the symptom. Yeah, what the fuck? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? Look in the mirror. Take a long look. What do you see? Stuck in the gut. Hold up your chest and really look at yourself. It doesn't matter how many angles or poses you take. The mirror is cruel. Well, I am really not that fat. Maybe just a little flabby. My dad used to say that 90% of solving a problem is realizing there is one. Focused intensity, life or death intensity is required for you to reset your money spending patterns. And one of your biggest obstacles is denial. The sad thing is that you can be financially mediocre in this country, financially flabby, and still be average. If the truth be known, being average, normal, and financial flabby is pretty much okay by most flocks standards. This, however, is not a book for the wimpy among us. This is a book about winning, about really having something. 90% of solving a problem is realizing there is one. We started out our marriage with absolutely no debt. We lived on a single income The cars were paid for, and we even had a small amount of savings. However, we eventually made the misguided decision to move into a much larger house that stretched us financially. After a few years, I changed jobs and we increased our annual income, giving us the illusion that we could increase our standard of living. That is when the debt really started accumulating. We financed 2 new cars to replace our old ones. We started buying everything on credit. We even got a home equity loan. Before we realized it, we were buried in debt. Kelly saw the total money makeover in our local bookstore and bought it as a Father's Day gift for me. By Independence Day, we had declared war on our debt. We had $6,000 in savings, but $16,000 in debt, not including our house. The plan required us to take out $5,000 from our savings to put toward our debt, leaving us with a $1,000 baby emergency fund. It was tough seeing our hard-earned savings disappear, but it really helped our debt snowball get rolling. We sacrificed it in other areas, and in just 10 months, we paid off all of our consumer debt. They've helped us realize that we had to draw the line and stop living beyond our means. Indeed, instead of having to pay our creditors each month, we can finally start paying ourselves and investing in our future. Don't wait to have denial knocked out of you. For several years, I have spoken multiple times a year to leave audiences of 2,000 to 12,000 people, teaching them the ideas in this book. After one live event where I spoke to 4,000 people, Sarah told me that her total money makeover came only after life placed a call to her. She said she had had me quote the Wall Street Journal as reporting that 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, but she honestly thought she was in the 30% who were fine. She had finally struck a pose, and the pose was denial. Deference. For your own good, for the good of your family and your future, grow a backbone. When something is wrong, stand up and say it is wrong, and don't back down. With 2 sons from her previous marriage, Sarah had just remarried and was happy and secure in her job, as was her husband John. Their new life together seemed awesome. Their household combined income was about $75,000 per year, with the normal debts of a small student loan, a car loan, and only $5,000 on a credit card. With life under control and even going well, Sarah and John decided their new family needed a new home. So the builder was selected and construction began. Somewhere deep inside there made uneasiness, but it was very deep. Finally, the day came when the new home was complete. Everything was going to be fine now. The new family in the new home, the way it is supposed to be. In May, they moved into the new home, complete with big new payments. Damn math and stupid tax. Washer and dryer for sale. Washer and dryer for sale. $1,800. Yes, that's correct, and you too can get this sweet deal. Just head on down to your local rent-to-own store. In September, Sarah's boss asked to see her in his office. She was excelling at work and braced herself for a big atta girl, followed by a nice bonus or a raise. Instead, the boss explained her job was being eliminated, downsizing, He said her life's work was cut from her, and 45,000 of their 75,000 income with the boss's chilling words. Not only was her pride hurt and her career path cut short, a creeping terror grew deep down inside as she drove home to tell John that night there were tears. That night there were tears, fears, and the sudden stark realization that she and John were financially fat. Suddenly, Sarah and her family were facing foreclosure on the house and repossession of the car. The basics of life had become precious. Sarah and John had listened to the Dave Ramsey show on the radio, but they always thought someone else needed a total money makeover. After all, they always held their stomachs in when standing in front of the mirror. The night after her layoff was the first night they looked in the financial mirror and saw fat people. The sight wasn't pretty. Big house payments, fast car payments, large student loans, bloated credit cards, anorexic savings, and no budget. They saw fat people. When you are physically fat, it's hard to be in denial because there is the ever-widening belt line. When you are financially fat, however, you can fake it and look good for a while. Your friends and family will participate in your fantasy denial, which makes you believe you are doing just fine. One of the 4 major factors that keep people from winning in money by getting a total money makeover is not realizing they need one. Sadly, some of the most dramatic makeovers I have seen have been by people who had life smack them so hard they got the denial knocked out of them. Like Sarah, if life isn't smacking you around at the moment, you are actually in greater danger than Sarah and John. The night of the layoff, you are a real candidate for financial mediocrity. Mediocrity, or even a major financial crisis brought on by denial. And you have to see the need to make dramatic changes. If you are empathetic because everything seems just fine, then you will be unwilling to make the huge changes needed to get huge results. You have to see the need to make dramatic changes. Frog legs. Years ago, in a motivational seminar by Master Zig Ziglar, I had a story about how mediocrity will snack up on you. The story goes that if you drop a frog into boiling water, he will sense the pain and immediately jump out. However, if you put a frog in a room temperature water, he will swim around happily. And as you gradually turn the water up to boiling, the frog will not sense the change. The frog is lured to his death by gradual change. We can lose our health, our fitness, and our wealth gradually, one day at a time. It might be a glitch, but that's because it is true. The enemy of the best is not the worst. The enemy of the best is just fine. Shocking stats. 88% of graduating seniors have credit card debt before they even have a job. I was in denial for a long time about my life and my spending habits. By my mid-20s, I was $23,000 in debt and I had little motivation to go out of it. My biggest problem wasn't realizing how nice it was to be free of financial concerns. It was gambling. I couldn't stop even when I began listening to the Dave Ramsey show and tried to start attacking my debt. I often failed. I kept losing my money to the addiction I had, never giving me time to get my feet on the ground. It took some time, but But finally, the financial pressures became too much to bear. I knew I needed a change. I started attending an amazing program called Celebrate Recovery, a ministry dedicated to helping people with addictions, hurts, and hang-ups. I also started my total money makeover, walking through the baby steps one by one. Establishing my emergency fund was the hardest part because I was still trying to break my gambling addiction, and that money would always get lost to some game. But as my addiction weakened, I established a budget. The debt I had incurred became less and less. I moved in with my parents to put would-be rent money toward my financial debt. Now I am saving for a down payment on a house. I hope to reach my goal by next year. It is a wonderful feeling to live without the strain of debt on my life. The pain of change. Change is painful. Few people have the courage to seek out change. Most people won't change until the pain of where they are exceeds the pain of change. When it comes to money, we can be like the toddler in a soiled diaper. I know it smells bad, but it's warm and it's mine. Only when the rush comes will we cry out. I hope Sarah's story and the others in this book will make you unwilling to stay where you are. If you keep doing the same things, you will keep getting the same results. You are where you are right now financially as a sum total of the decisions you have made to this point. If you like where you are, keep it up. Keep in mind, however, why you are reading a book called The Total Money Makeover is it. Because deep down you have the same uneasy feeling Sarah had, but didn't address it until it was almost too late. Are you really looking for something more? If so, you have got great news. This plan works. Break through the temptation to remain in the same situation and opt for the pain of change before the pain of not changing searches you out. Don't wait for a heart attack to show you that you are overweight. Cut the carbs, the fats, the sugars, and lace up the running shoes now. And lace up the running shoes now. Oh, 30 minutes already. I need to be here, out of here. Few people have the courage to seek out change. The good news about Sarah and John was that the financial heart attack they had made them address their financial, eating, and exercise habits. The layoff was a wake-up call and the end to denial. After a year of very hard times, Sarah was able to find a whole new career. Only this time, when the checks started rolling in, Sarah and John were using the system. Every paycheck became an exciting event because they had a plan. They were financially losing weight and toning up. It wasn't a quick process, but after following the steps over time, today they are really winning. The night I met Sarah and John, they were 2 years into their plan and smiling. They told me they were debt-free except for their house, and they had $12,000 in the bank just for emergencies. They had broken through their own denial, but they made their family uncomfortable because they refused to live like everyone else. Albert Einstein said, "Great spirits have often encountered violent opposition from weak minds." John's dad had made fun of their plan and the extra jobs they took to him. He asked if they had joined some cult or something. Once Sarah and John had realized they were the emperor with no clothes, Denial was no longer an option. They also realized all they had been doing with money to impress others, but no more. Sarah chuckled as she told me how she used to think. We must be doing well. All these things credit card companies think I am credit worthy. If I'm getting approvals from all these banks, I must be okay because otherwise they wouldn't want to loan me money. Besides, I pay my credit cards off every month. How could I be in any trouble? I can afford to buy that car or that furniture if I can afford the payment. John was grinning now too, as they both laughed at the language of financially fat people who think they are fine. The language of denial. As we closed our conversation that night, Sarah told me that while she hoped she and John never lost another job unexpectedly, they are ready if they do. We are no longer living a lie. We know where we are. We know where we are going. And we know how we are going together, she said. She and John wanted to leave me a gift for inspiring their total money makeover, but I assured them they had already had. 3. Debt myths. Debt is not a tool. Oh God. Oh. Toda man. Toda. DBBJPY. Toto. I cannot find no will. See that what? When you said by is what means that it should be something on the screen that converts the energy work. I must be what if I don't know, it is a one that is pretty. So otherwise, they are they are flashy. It's also mostly make us can name flashing. What the fuck, son? What did I? Unless we put it have screen. Okay. For founders, it's probably the software, not the hardware. You need to see the expert. They got oh, good. Where was I? Oh, good. Red faced and fists clenched. The toddler yells, "Fuck!"
That's really that's the revelation.
The toddler yells with mother in his voice. I want it, I want it, I want it. We have all watched this scene unfold in the grocery store. We may even have watched our own children do this once. Now that I am older and more mellow, I sometimes grin a little as a young mom tries, without success, to stifle the out of control screams of a child who is denied something. It is human nature to want it and want it now. It is also a sign of immaturity. It is human nature to want it and want it now. It is also a sign of immaturity. Being willing to delay pleasure for a greater result is a sign of maturity. However, our culture teaches us to live for the now. I want it. We scream, and we can get it. And we can get it if we are willing to go into debt. That is a means to obtain the I want it before we can afford them. Joining in the lie. Think of God. I have heard it say that if you tell a lie often enough, loudly enough, and long enough, the myth will become accepted as a fact. Repetition, volume, and longevity will twist and turn a myth or a lie into a commonly accepted way of doing things. Entire populations have been lulled into the approval of GHASTLY, ghastly deeds, and even participation in them by gradually moving from the truth to a lie. Throughout history, twisted logic, rationalization, and incremental changes have allowed normally intelligent people to be party to ridiculous things. Propaganda in particular played a big part in allowing these things to happen. Dumb math and stupid tax. Imagine you buy a 130,000 home for which you take out a 110 mortgage at 7%. The final cost after all is said and done and paid would be 283,520 after 30 years, or even 197,840 after 15. The difference, just 250 extra per month. Go with 15 years. We have propaganda in our culture today. I'm not speaking in a political sense, but rather recognizing that there are people out there who want us to think their way and who will go to great lengths to accomplish that. The financial and banking industries in particular are very good at teaching us their way of handling money, which of course leads us to buy their products. If I see an ad again and again that tells me I will be cool and sharp if I drive a certain car, I can fall under the illusion that with the purchase of that car, those good things will happen to me. We may not really believe that we will become a model just from purchasing a car. But notice that ugly people aren't used in the TV spots to sell cars. We aren't really falling for that lie, or are we? I'm just asking. After all, we do buy the car and then justify our purchase on the basis of something academic like gas mileage. When we participate in what the crowd identifies as normal, even if it is stupid, we gain acceptance into the club. Sometimes we don't even realize what we are doing is stupid because we have been told that is just the way you do it. And so we never ask why. As we participate in the myth, we learn to spout the principles of the myth. After the years go by and we have invested more money and time into the myth, we become great disciples and can preach the points of the myth which with great fervor and volume. We become such experts on the myth that we can sell others on joining the lie. I once joined in the lie, but no more. Don't let the monkeys pull you down. That has been sold to us aggressively, so loudly, and so often that to imagine living without debt requires myth busting. We have to systematically destroy the inner workings of the myths. That is so ingrained into our culture that most Americans can't even envision a car without a payment, a house without a mortgage, a student without a loan, and credit without a card. We have been sold debt with such repetition and with such favor that most folks cannot conceive what it would be like to have no payments. Just as slaves born into slavery can't visualize freedom, we Americans don't know what it would be like to wake up to no debt. In 2007, 7 billion credit card offers were put in our mailboxes, and we are taking advantage of those offers, according to Card Track. Americans currently have 928 billion in credit card debt. We can't do without debt, or can we? A major barrier to winning is our view of debt. Oh God, I feel like I'm dozing. Let me first water. Go. Oh my papa. Samangwe. Come here. Oh. What's up, man? I'll mess up myself. And you got me played. Working with tens of thousands of people on their total money makeover in the last several years, I have found that a major barrier to winning is our view of debt. Most people who have made the decision to stop borrowing money have experienced something weird. Ridicule. Friends and families think I have to get done. Okay. Friends and families who are disciples of the myth that debt is good have ridiculed those on the path to freedom. John Maxwell tells of a study done on monkeys. A group of monkeys were locked in a room with a pole at the center. Some Lucius. Oh, okay. Ripe bananas were placed on the top of the pole. When a monkey would begin to climb the pole, the experimenters would knock him off with a blast of water from a fire hose. Each time a monkey could climb, off he would go until the monkeys had been knocked off repeatedly, thus learning that the climb was hopeless. The experimenters then observed that the other primates would pull down any monkey trying to climb. They replaced a single monkey with one who didn't know the system. As soon as the new guy tried to climb, the others would pull him down and punish him for trying. One by one, each monkey was replaced, and the scene repeated until there were no monkeys left in the room that had experienced the fire hose. Still, none of the new guys were allowed to climb. The other monkeys pulled them down. Not one monkey in the room knew why, but none were allowed to get the bananas. We aren't monkeys, but sometimes we exhibit behavior that seems rather chimp-like. We don't even remember why. We just know that death is needed to win. So when a loved one decides to get a total money makeover, we laugh. We get angry and pull him down. We Americans are like the last set of monkeys. With rolled eyes, we spout, like S-P-O-U-T. Spout. Out, spout. We spout. We spout. The part lines associated with the myth, as if anyone not wanting to have death is unintelligent. That person must be a symptom, a fanatic, or a worst of all, uneducated in finance. Then why are so many finance professors broke? I think a broke finance professor is like a shop teacher with missing figures. Myth versus truth. I want to expose the inner workings of the death myth by looking at many of the sub-myths. However, I need to warn you to watch out for your instinct to defend the American way of borrowing. Calm down, relax, and go for a ride with me for a few pages. I might be onto something if at the end of this myth-busting section you conclude I am just a nut with a book. You will not be forced to change. But just in case, the tens of thousands of families who have experienced a total money makeover have something to say to you. Read on in a relaxed state. Let your guard down. You can always put the shield up. Myth, that is a tool and should be used to create prosperity. Truth, death adds considerable risk. Most often doesn't bring prosperity and isn't used by wealthy people nearly as much as we are led to believe. When training for my first career in real estate, I remember being told that debt was a tool. Debt is like a fulcrum and lever, allowing us to lift what we otherwise could not. We can buy a home, a car, start a business, or go out to eat and not be bothered with having to wait. I remember a finance professor telling us that there was a two-edged sword which could cut for you like a tool, but could also cut into you and bring harm. The myth has been sold that we could use OPM, other people's money, to prosper. The academic garbage is spread really thick on this issue. We are told with sufficient snobbery and noises in the ear that sophisticated and financiers use debt to their advantage. Careful there, you will get a sunburn on your upper lip. Debt brings on enough risk to offset any advantage that could be gained through leverage of debt. My contention is that debt brings on enough risk to offset any advantage that could be gained through leverage of debt. Given time, a lifetime risk will destroy the perceived returns purported purported by the myth sayers. I think I'm out of time. I once was, let me finish this and 1 hour. Are we done? 1 hour. Bob John, hi. Hi, Bob John. Yeah. I don't know if you're still on, maybe you are gone. I once was a myth sayer myself, and I could repeat the myths very convincingly. I was especially good with the debt is a tool myth. I even sold rental property that was losing money to investors by showing them with very sophisticated internal rates of return how they could actually make money. Boy, what a rich. I could support the myth with enthusiasm. But life and God had some lessons to teach me. Only after losing everything I owned and finding myself bankrupt, did I think that risk could be factored in. Even mathematically, it took my waking up in intensive care to realize how dumb and dangerous this myth is. Life hit me hard enough to get my attention and teach me, according to Proverbs 22:7, the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. I was confronted with a scripture and I had to make a conscious decision of who was right. My broke finance professor who taught that debt is a tool, or God. Yeah? My phone had blacked out. We don't have power. So I'm just put it there. God who showed obvious disdain for debt. Beverly Seals had it right when she said, there is no shortcut to any place worth going. Myth versus truth. Myth. Playing the lotto and other forms of gambling will make you rich. Truth. Lotto and Powerball are a tax on the poor and the people who can't do math. We bought the lie. We lived our lives according to the standards set to keep up with the Joneses. Turns out they were broke and living in debt too. My husband and I owed $72,000 on a rental property and $35,000 on credit cards, student loans, and car notes. And on top of that, we bought a 4-bedroom home complete with a pool that was in need of major repairs. All of this on a $40,000 teacher's salary. But we decided that all of this was a good investment in our future. We were so wrong. We were sick and tired of always having more math. Well, we were sick and tired of always having more money, more math. Yeah, more math than money. We needed a total money makeover. We sold our rental property and our way to big house and downside to something much smaller. We spent 2.5 years of focused intensity to finally become debt free. If you are living in the bondage of debt, you are not living. Our marriage is so much better, and there is an element of peace that wasn't there before we had a financial plan. We feel blessed to have found this information early in our marriage and thankful to the opportunity to teach our children to be financially responsible. I found that if you look into the lives of the kind of people you want to be like, you will find common themes. If you want to be skinny, study skinny people. If you want to be rich, do what lots of rich people do, not what some myth says to do. Forbes 400 is a list of the richest 400 people in America, as rated by Forbes magazine. When surveyed, 75% of the Forbes 400 rich people, not your broke brother-in-law with an opinion, said the best way to build wealth is to become and stay debt-free. Will Grace Siscoes and Harley Davidson are run debt-free. I've met with thousands of millionaires in my years as a financial counselor, and I have never met one who said he made it all with Discover Cards bonus points. They all lived on less than they made and spent only when they had cash. No payments. History also teaches us that debt wasn't always a way of life. In fact, 3 of the biggest lenders today were founded by people who hated debt. Sears now makes more money on credit than on the sale of merchandise. They are not a store, they are a lender. Lender with some stuff out front. However, in 1910, the Sears catalog stated, buying on credit is folly. Jesse penny department stores make millions annually on their plastic, but their founder was nicknamed James Cash Penny because he detested the use of debt. Henry Ford thought debt was a lazy man's method to purchase items, and his philosophy was so ingrained in Ford Motor Company that Ford didn't offer financing until 10 years after General Motors did. Now, of course, Ford Motor Credit is one of the most profitable of Ford Motors operations. The old school saw the folly of debt. The new school saw the opportunity to take the advantage of the consumer with debt. You have probably heard a lot of the sub-myths which fall in line behind the big one that says debt is a tool so that we leave no stone unturned. Let's review and debunk each of the myths spread by a culture that has officially bought the lie. Myth: if I loan money to friends or relatives, I am helping them. Truth: if I loan money to a friend or relative, the relationship will be strained or destroyed. The only relationship that would be enhanced is the kind resulting from one party being the master and the other party a servant. Done. I feel hungry. Let's finish this and we see Bob John, you are gone. Bob John, the old joke is that if you loan your brother-in-law $100 and he never speaks to you again, was it worth the investment? We have all experienced loaning someone money and finding an immediate distancing in the relationship. Joan called my radio show one day complaining about how a loan had ruined her relationship with one of her best friends at work. She had loaned the lady, a broke single mother, $50 until payday. Payday came and went, and her friend, someone she used to talk to at lunch every day, someone who was her confidant, and sounding bored, now avoided her. Shame and guilt had entered the scene with no provocation. We don't control how debt affects relationships. Debt does that independently of what we want. The borrower is slave to the lender, and you can change the spiritual dynamic of relationships when you loan loved one. loved one's money. They are no longer a friend, uncle, or a child. They are now your servant. I know some of you think that is overstated, but tell me why Thanksgiving dinner tastes different when a loan has been served. Eating with your master is different from eating with your family. John was really torn up about losing this friendship. I asked her if the friendship was worth $50. She gushed that it was worth many times that. So I told her to call her friend and tell her that debt was forgiven, a gift. Forgiveness of debt helped her remove the master-servant dynamic from the relationship. Of course, it would be better if that dynamic had never entered the scene. I also suggested two stipulations to the forgiveness of the debt. First, that the friend agree to help someone in need someday, and second, she never loan friends money. Let's break the myth chain. In Joan's case, the myth chain of loaning a friend money will be broken only if they both learn their lesson. The lesson is that while it is fine to give money to friends in need, if you have it, loaning them money will mess up relationships. I have dealt with hundreds of strained and destroyed families in which well-meaning people loaned money to help. Parents loan 25-year-old newly married couple the down payment money for the first home. It all seemed so noble and nice until the daughter-in-law catches the disapproving glances at the mention of the couple's upcoming vacation. She knows the meaning of the glances, that she would check with these well-meaning noble parents-in-law before she buys toilet paper until the loan is repaid. A lifetime of resentment can be born right there. The grandfather loans the 20-year-old $25,000 to purchase that new four-wheel drive truck he needs. Of course, the loan is at 6%, much better than Junior can get at the bank, and much better than Grandpa gets from his CD at the bank. Everyone wins, or do they? What happens when John loses his job and can't pay Grandpa, who is from the old school where you dig ditches till midnight if you want to, in order to honor your word? Now Junior and Grandpa are at odds, so Junior sells the truck and pays Grandpa the $19,000 he gets from it. Grandpa hadn't taken a lien on the title, so he now expects broke, angry, and unemployed Junior to repay the balance of $6,000. Grandpa will never see his $6,000 or his grandson again. His perverted twist of the myth, mixed with shame and guilt, Junior's mind somehow concords. What's the meaning of concords? Concords that this is all Grandpa's fault, and he abandons the relationship. Hundreds of times I've seen relationships strained and sometimes destroyed. We all have, but we continue to believe the myth that a loan to a loved one is a blessing. It isn't. It is a curse. Don't put burden on any relationship you care about. Myth: by consigning a loan, I'm helping a friend or a relative. Truth: be ready to pay the loan. The bank wants a consigner for a reason, which is that they don't expect the friend or relative to pay. I think I have to begin from there. I'll begin from there. I will begin from there. I will be, what the, okay. I'll begin from there. Tick-tock. Now we head back to the tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Begin from there.